What's up everybody, welcome back to the 2300 Gear Jammer channel. This is the second video in the Pinto build series, and if you watched the first video, we basically got the car out, cleaned it out, and moved it into place. Since then, I pulled the engine and transmission out, pulled the windows out, and vacuumed the floor, and I put it on jack stands, which is where most of these cars end up right before they get parted out. But the floor ended up a lot worse than I thought it was. It was rusted pretty bad. So I decided the best thing I can do is try not to fall through that when I work today. And if you watched the first video, the reason for having to redo this cage in the first place is the fact that the welds are so bad on the cage. So I'm going to cut the old cage out and just put another cheap cage in. I think that's the fastest, easiest way to do it. Oh, this morning I was unloading an engine, and if the guy that welded the cage had a cousin down the street that could do it cheaper, I think this would have been your guy. That's pretty good. It almost looks like bugs. But anyway, I'm going to start cutting on this mess, and that way I can move on to the install as quick as I can. Time for dirty work. Here's what the weld looks like. That is 1 5/8" tube. Look how thick that weld is. Don't do that. If your weld's not working out, I understand. I'm not a welder. Just get somebody to help, and you won't have to do what I'm doing right now. The floor plate, I started getting rough with it just to see what it could hold, and it definitely didn't. So that's junk. We'll have to fix that. This hole on this side still hanging in there. Almost stepped in that one again. While I was working, the truck dropped the cage off, so let's open it up and see what a $252 cage looks like. I'm getting antsy, so I want to at least get the main hoop in and started. I've laid the two cages over top of each other, and I think, if you look where these bends are, especially on these cheaper cages, you can feel a crimp in how the tube sits in the die when they bend it. And the old cage, the rusted piece of junk one, is actually a little bit better. I assume that's why these are as cheap as they are, because of how bad the bends are. But it's going in there. So my goal here is for this car, since it's not going to have any kind of headliner, I'm going to try to get the main hoop up as far as I can. The black car is a lot lower, so the main hoop is down almost 2 inches from the headliner, so there's a big gap there. And then that lowers the halo. So that car is extremely hard. It's really cramped. I fit just fine, but I've got some bigger guys that are going to be driving this car some, so I'm going to try to make it fit everybody that can try this car on. And the main hoop is going to sit on these outriggers, and I may have to lean it back just a little bit. I may try to line it up with the B-pillar. That one's really far forward, so it's kind of a pain to get in and out of too. But let's check, see how level it is just sitting there. Just a rough cut in the way the car is sitting. It's only out 1/10 of a degree side to side. So all I'm going to do is give this an angle cut and set it in there, and it's about 4 degrees. The height's about right where it's at, so I'm not going to cut off too much, just enough to slide it on there. Kind of ratchet strapped into place. I don't want to tack weld anything until I get the halo sort of cut. So I make these ratchet straps like a sling. I'm gonna slide the halo right in there, and see, compared it to the old cage, I don't think it's going to be a whole lot to cut off. We might just go straight to notch. All good? I died. I know I said I was just going to use the grinder, but I changed my mind. One special tool, $50. Best money you're gonna spend is on this guy, and it is super slick. So you slide this over your tube, put the halo in place, and then just press that guy against it, and then you can mark your notch and cut it from there. All right, I finished notching the halo. I pulled the main hoop out, which you can see. It is this is all just with a hand grinder. I used a cutoff disc, the thick guy, and then a flap disc at the end, and you sneak up on it. But you can do it. This ended up, it is 89 and some change. They ended up perpendicular, almost perfect. I didn't plan that, it just sort of worked out that way. And this floor isn't too good either, but that's 3/10, and that is 2/10, all on a crappy concrete floor. So that's as good as this car deserves anyway. I like editing these because I get to see dumb stuff that I do, and I can say, hey dummy, it's not going to fit that way, turn it around. Yeah, do that. The halo and the main hoop are in. Pretty happy with that, so it's time to move on to the part that's going to be awful. I'm going to fix these two places on the floor. When you do these cages, when the bar comes down, if it doesn't go directly to the frame or another tube, it's got to be on a 6" by 6" plate, which is unfortunately that hole right there. And the plate on the driver's side is almost as bad, where it's rusted around the edges. So I'm going to make a new plate, and I'm going to tie it to the rocker, and I'm going to tie it to the frame rail. And if I were doing this with anything other than a grinder, I'd probably bend the edge and bring it up and make it sort of like angle iron on this side, so you can tie it farther up to the rocker. But I'm just going to do a flat piece, and then I'll support it from the bottom side. And just because the floor is so bad, I'm going to do it on both sides. There we go. That's the hard part. So next, I'm going to drop everything down, clean around it, weld it, fix the plates in the floor, and then I'll start doing all the straight bars, which will go a whole lot faster. And we can get past this mess and go on to something else. All right, at this point, I've got the main hoop in, halo welded in final, and the door bar is done, the plates are in. These 4 points are welded final. I'm going to call it. I spent a lot more time cutting the old cage out and trying to save what I could, and I shouldn't have done that. I should have just kept trucking. So I'm calling it for this video. This is going to be a two-parter. Thanks for watching. Join us for part 2. We'll finish it up.
Come on, hurry up!